So when they speak about the spirit, you're talking about an aspect of the matter that you represent. And so when we speak about that, spirit now, I say, is time. Time is an element. Without it, nothing exists. And they're only now coming to that. We've been speaking to this 30 years. Time is an element like fire, air, water, and earth. It is the cohesive element that creates what we see as third density, or even the other densities, because fourth density deals with another time signature.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth density deals with another time signature, which is based upon frequency and the spin orientation of the particle.
Mm-hmm.
This is all the stuff that your boy, what's his name, Terrence Howard is trying to say. He ain't doing nothing. He can do what he did. But you, me, Dr. Blair, Bobby Hemmett, he's now trying to tell everybody, here's what the solution is, and they try to shut him down, tell him he's a fool. Meanwhile, they push this asshole by the name of, what's his name, Neil deGrasse or Neil the Ass Tyson,
Yeah.
as the person who is the new Einstein that's teaching everybody. He's a fool. He is a clown. Last person you need to listen to.
Doc, so listen, so I don't know if you've seen it, but Terrence Howard did this epic interview with Billy Carson.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, he was on Billy Carson's channel. They did an interview together. I mean, there was over 12,000 people in the chat. It was a big deal.
Beautiful.
And I didn't know what level, Terrence is in Hollywood. I didn't know what level of consciousness he was going to go in on the platform. But he started talking about, he was talking about how they're trying to block him.
Yeah.
And he was saying how they shouldn't be surprised because he has a 9 DNA sequence and every other race has a 6 DNA sequence.
Yeah.
And how the descendants of Africa is having, and we've all heard this before. Yeah. But I didn't know he was going to go there on Billy's.
I didn't want to tell you that too. That I have a 9. I have a 9 with the first going into.
I need you to elaborate on that because I didn't know he was going to go there. But talk to me about this whole, because I hear about the 9 ether versus the 6 ether, and I think Dr. York talked about that. But tell me about what he meant by he has a 9 DNA sequence and the other races outside of Africa. Yeah,
closer to the simian.
Talk to me.
Closer to the chimpanzee. We are not. Those are derivative qualities. Those are the derivative creations. Those are the ones that were experiments on the DNA. So I, along with others, the European man is trying to create technologies to bring him to a 12 DNA strand.
Okay.
Which is really him just giving you a higher form of his own, how do I say it, deformed self. Actually, if you're looking at the amount of DNA that we have that we're supposed to actually braid, to actually have our God self together, to breathe, to access the frequencies, you have to deal with the amount of, what do you call it, what is the Jewish alphabet? The Jewish alphabet has how many figures? How many characters? How many characters does the Jewish alphabet have?
How many?
Okay. We're supposed to have 34 to 44 strands of DNA. Everything that you see as far as it's more than 34. I'm trying to remember how many of the DNA, how many of the what is it, the Kabbalah and the Jewish letters that they hid the DNA information in. That DNA strand, the strands that we have, what we call the junk DNA, is supposed to be threaded based upon our accessing higher levels through what we call consciousness accretion. Consciousness accretion is supposed to give you energy patterns directly from other consciousness as well as dimensional sequences to give you the necessary information to braid the junk into the necessary amount of braided DNA to bring you to the higher levels of consciousness. Some of us have already come back with that, as per your brother Terrence.
Mm-hmm.
And can't say that because then I become a target. But then you have to understand that some have come back to teach people how to braid that necessary amount of DNA so that you can start picking up energy patterns from higher frequencies that would then download to feed your DNA patterns to braid the junk into the necessary helixes that would then give you that would ignite the lamp of God or Gad. Gad is Jewish for the head. It was actually the lamp of Gad that taketh away the sins of the world. The lamp that is the pineal that lights or illuminates the ignorance. And to do that, you have to raise Kundalini. But to raise Kundalini safely, you have to have a higher and more tensed, how do you say, tension or tension? And if you're looking at architecture and you're dealing with, setting up bridges, they set up tension or tensor wires. Well, the DNA has to become a tensor wiring in order to channel the amount of energy without burning you up, without destroying the nerve endings that would be necessary for you to raise that Kundalini up. So most of what we see today, most of what we are not dealing with today, is the fact that I got drawn a blank for the amount, and I think the people out there, please research the amount of alphabetic letters or the alpha beta letters that constitute the Jewish calendar, or the, what do you call it, the Kabbalah, and that's the amount of DNA. That's the amount of strands in the DNA that you need. Huh? my wife is trying to give me some. 22. I'm sorry, not 34. Thank you, darling. She's reading from me. Yeah, it's the 22 strands. I'm sorry, it's 22 strands. That's why 22 is such a powerful number.
Yeah,
11. So the 22 strands, the first 12, and then from there is the next 10 that has to bring up the 22 strands that are braided together, and from that point you begin to braid the original spiritual body begins to come and descend. In other words, the part of you that's your higher spiritual self begins to reacclimate to your body and lift you up and give you that knowledge.
Indeed. All right.